Hi, everybody. Um, I'm going to talk to the Super APs about a new project management methodology. Um, One of the big things that I'm having trouble with, is communicating and understanding where our Super APs are at in their projects. So I want to introduce this new structure using GitHub of how to manage your project and also for me to oversee your project and see where we're at, see where we need help, different things like that. So to briefly talk about it, I'm going to talk about the Agile methodology and the process behind a lot of the biggest tech companies. Majority of the big tech companies use this methodology called Agile, which is just this plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review, launch. Go back through the circle over again. It's similar to like the scientific process where you're like going through your hypothesis, testing, collecting data, different things like that, and going over again. But these are in specific either sprints, which are designated time slots, or continuous flow. But the big key thing here with Agile is that these are iterative or small steps that we're taking to get to a bigger solution. So this is kind of just the flow of what Agile is. Um, if we look, the big thing as I talked about is we're delivering incrementally versus all at once. So once you have some product out, just like the baseline framework of a product, you're able to add features to it continuously by small steps. So we're not just creating everything and releasing it all at once. Ideally, we have small steps to take to get to a larger solution. And during this process, we learn more about what we want to add to it and also different things that we can change about it. We can very slowly build what we actually are looking to build. And that's just the idea of the methodology itself. There's two big methods of doing this. One is Scrum. Scrum is more of a structured approach to Agile. And if we look at this graph here, we basically have a backlog of features. These are just features that we want to build, features that are part of our application. Like I have a website. I want to add a button for users to press when they want to go to the next page. That is a feature. It can be the smallest little thing. We divvy everything out into their own little features. There is usually a process period of actually developing the stuff. As we saw here, the develop, test, deploy, review. We have a structured timeline for this, and then we create more items for features. But the big thing is when we start our process, we don't change any of the features we're doing. We just execute them, finish them, get them pushed out to the users. And then when we get the next time to do our next sprint, which is a 30-day process, in this case, we do one sprint with those features. We create new ideas for features and put them on our backlog. And then we start executing those next features on the next sprint. So it's do these features, finish them, execute them, do another set of features, finish them, execute them, and keep building features. This is a great method. A lot of the biggest companies use this. You'll hear about people called Scrum Masters. You'll hear about Scrum meetings. All this stuff is dedicated on a timeline that they have created. The other methodology for Agile is Kanban Boarding. So Kanban Boarding is more of a quicker process. It's not a quicker process. It's a continuous process. So instead of having a 2-week segment or a 30-day segment of a sprint where you're creating all your stuff, you're creating tasks that continuously are ever flowing. Everyone's working on them and different things like that. And the easiest way to think about this is through these boards. So this is just a post-it note board where you have stories, things that you need to do, things that are in progress, things that are testing, and things that are done. So the way this works is that you have one post-it note that starts the stories. You move it to the to-do once it's done with the story. Once you start working on it, you move it to in progress. Once you're testing it, you move into testing, and then you move it into done when it's finished. And it's slowly this continuous process of moving tasks or features over the span of time across the board. And it's just this continuous flow of I'm doing this feature, slowly moving across the board. Everyone's doing a different set of features. And this is the methodology that we're going to be using. Now, I talked about stories here a little bit, and we like to describe a little portion here, what user stories are. User stories are the easiest way for us to figure out what features we need to create. How do we define a feature, basically? What is that button that person needs to press? Why is it there? For us to get a better sense of how our users are using our application, our website, our just anything that we're building, we create a story of, hey, I'm Mr. Poole, I'm a teacher. Why would a teacher be using this program? What are they trying to do with it? They have a role, a goal that they want to create, and then a purpose for what they're doing with it. We build out multiple different user stories. We build out a teacher, we build out a student, we build out the administration, the principal, and all these people are using this one application for different reasons. Maybe they need the administration needs a feature to look at the back end. Maybe the teachers need a feature to post stuff to students. And these are all different features that we're adding to our application that is all encompassed because of our user stories. So user stories create the features that we want to, and as much as we possibly can, we want to drive our tasks or features through the purpose of a user. Like, why are we creating this feature? If things are more user focused, then we'll be able to create a better solution in the end for our overall goal. So as you saw here on the Kanban board, you have stories or user stories of what we want to do for the user. Then we can start creating an actual task out of that and slowly move it over. So the difference between these two, it's nice on this chart here. We have Scrum, which is usually they're in 2-week segments where you have a fixed sprint of 2 weeks. Once you reach the end of the sprint, you release your data, your new features. You have a bunch of people that are part roles. Metric is velocity of how fast these sprints are going if you're delivering on that 2-week due date. And yeah, you shouldn't make changes during the sprint. The sprint is purely for execution only. At the sprint meeting, that's when you can discuss for the next sprint what's going on. Kanban boarding is a continuous flow where we have continuous delivery because it's continuously having those post-it notes fly across that board. There's no roles required. Everyone's just kind of executing, planning, all that stuff all at the same time. Lead time cycles, yes, all this is just continuous flow of everything happening. We're changing as we go. And for our purposes, we're creating projects. Ideally, we treat it like a startup. We're creating projects and we're continuously flowing about how we're executing these things. If you want to go for a Scrum a timeline, that's super cool. That'd be interesting to kind of replicate here on campus. But mostly I'm interested in going for a Kanban board. So let's show you one. So I have an example of one on my GitHub. So this is not my big GitHub. This is the GitHub I want to go to. So this is my textbook. This is just the TPOOL 22 textbook that all the students use. It's just a general repository for GitHub. I would prefer everyone to have a GitHub repository for their projects. And then I would like to be added as a collaborator, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So first off, there's this little tab here called projects, and this is the one specifically on your repository. There's a separate one that is part of your profile, your projects here. We don't want to look at that one. That one's kind of just like a general Kanban board for yourself, but we want to attach this to your repository. So if we click on projects here on your repository, you can create a new project. I'll show you how to do that in a second, but I want to show you how mine looks really quickly. So this is just my textbook updates, everything I need to do. If we look here, we've got a to-do list. We have an in progress and a done. I am missing stories. You can add stories, or you can make your to-do list very story-driven. I have also long-term goals. This is kind of something for me to note down. I've added just notes of like, hey, I want to add all these different things. I want to add Unity, Python. I want to change slides, make them easier to read, different things like that. But those are for the future, not quite yet. These are more of my in progress things I'm focused on in the textbook itself. When you create it, it creates this little note here, and this is a really nice little note that helps you. You can kind of see there's a bunch of formatting here that you can do that'll create really intricate notes that you can create little checkboxes, link different links to it, and make your Kanban board a little more interactive. But yeah, this is kind of the general. I slowly move cards over, and they move to done, and then they're basically good to go. I'm gonna move that back, but we're just slowly moving cards around. You can, let's just go ahead and start creating a new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to tpool22. We're gonna go to projects again. We're gonna create a new project. So I'm gonna create a new project, make it test for supers, sure. And I'm actually gonna click on template, and I'm gonna click on basic Kanban. We can automate our Kanbans by attaching them to actual issues that we need to resolve or pull requests for our GitHub projects. And then when you're completing these requests, these issues, they will slowly move across your board. Right now, we just want a basic Kanban to discuss what's going on. So basic Kanban, we're going to click Create Project. And then you should see here, we have our to-do, our in progress, and our done. Fantastic. We have all these notes that they've given us, and you can kind of get those as well on yours, where you can see how to build a note that's pretty cool looking. I'm going to start off by adding 2 columns. One, I'm going to add weekly updates. I'm just going to create that as is. And I'm going to create one more, which is just notes, where I'm going to move these guys over here. So I'm going to move these guys to notes because they're just kind of there for that. We're good to go. Fantastic. Now, I have an empty board. We can start creating cards. So if I create a card in to-do, I'm be like, hey, create YouTube video for super on Agile. Cool. I've created a note. I add it there. And I can add as many notes as I want. There's no limit to notes. But I can also edit this note, and I can convert this to an issue. Converting it to an issue is actually really interesting. I'm just going to create it as is. And now I have a new issue under my repository where it says create a new video for supers. This gives me a little more flexibility of what's going on. I can actually right-click that note, or click that note, once I've created it as an issue, and you see a new pop-up over here where I can assign it to different people that are a part of this repository. I can assign it to myself. You'll see now I'm up here. I should pop up there in a bit. Can add labels. These labels are really nice. I would definitely take advantage of these. You can see my users popped up there now. These, I can't quite see it there. Let me move my face. Let's move over here. Nice. These labels are really handy in that if, say, you wanted help on this, it'll add a help wanted tag, or you have a question about this, you add a question tag. If I close this up, we should see that it updates over here where it says help wanted question. Maybe we use help wanted when you're stuck on a problem, and I, as a teacher, I can come in and be like, hey, I saw you had help wanted on this to-do problem or this in progress problem. What can I do to help you? Where are you stuck? This is something for me to easily see where you're at, and also for you to communicate with your other project members about what's going on. We can also add milestones. This is in our project. And then we can also click on this go to full detail of the feature itself, where we can add comments, we can close the issue. This is really handy as well for discussing about what's going on with the issue, what's actually being done. Ideally, in this body, I skipped that body when we created the issue. We leave a comment about what this user story is. So the user story of we need to create this because of some reason. And it's going to take a little bit of setting up to do, but once it's all built, it's going to be working great. The other thing that I am going to require is a weekly update for each individual on a project. So similar to how we're doing our weekly updates on Google Classrooms, I want to create a weekly update for Jacob. This is me. I can also create a weekly update for Nito. That's him as well. We're going to create these both as issues so we can actually work with them. And every week, I'm interested in seeing people update their cards, basically. So under my card, if I go to the full details, I'd like to see every week on like Thursday or Friday, we update this comment section here where we say, hey, this week I did yada, 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 different things like that. And we kind of describe what we've done with our process itself. And then we can kind of slowly see our updates throughout the entire time, and I'm able to see those as well. On mine, I believe I give an example update of what it should entail. Yeah, so here I will copy this and paste this in our either our classroom or our YouTube video. You should be able to actually access this on my repository as well, where you see update questions. Try to answer as many of these as possible. You might not be able to answer all of them, but this is what will entail a good update for me. Let's see, what else? So we have created our projects. The only other thing I would ask to suggest is once we've created our projects and we have a repository, I would like to be added to the repository so I can actually start seeing these things and interacting with them as well. You can just do that by managing access for your repository. I can't do that right now, but you should be able to invite me, and my email is just my school email. And that should be it. So Agile, we have Kanban Boarding, we have Scrum. We're going to be using Kanban through our projects here for GitHub, and just go through a continuous workflow of creating user stories, creating to-do lists, items, and slowly moving those across our board. Use this as much as you want. If you want to expand upon it, make it look gorgeous, feel free to. There are other services that also do the same thing. So like Trello does Kanban boarding. And I think there's one other one that I'll probably mention some other time, but use this as much as you can. This will help me visualize where you're at, and also for you and your project members to also visualize what tasks are being done and who's working on what. Yep, that's it.